All right, so in your All Men Created Equal project, in the project overview, as you go down, resources for everyone, click reflection and feedback. All right, the first part that you'll be working on is your self-reflection. This is going to prove that you have all the parts. If you notice though that you're missing something while you're doing it, go ahead and fix it, change it to make it better. So these are the things that you need to do to have a level 5, which is kind of the equivalent of your A in 8th grade, skills you need to show that you have. And this is specifically for the argumentative claim part. You'll need to highlight your main claim and subclaims in yellow, bold any transition words or phrases, underline any phrases or sentences where you attempt to explain things that a reader might not have the same background knowledge, or to a reader who might not have the same background knowledge. Put in italics any place where you establish why your claim or subclaims are important. So these are the things that make up a level 5 argumentative claim. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to go ahead and go into your, and this is a little bit different on mine. I'm just going to open a new one to go into it. So actually, let's duplicate. All right, so I'm going to go back here and I'm going to open up the argumentative essay. Now, I have not written my own because I'm not a student, but I do want to show you how to do all of those things. So you'll be marking them in here. I do have the example, so I can start with that. This is one that I started. At the time of the Constitution's creation, women had very few rights, which shows they weren't included in the ideal professed that all men are created equal. I'm going back and looking at highlighting my main claim and subclaims in yellow. So first I'm going to get rid of all of the stuff that I had put in here when we were talking about it. So undo and no highlighting. Okay. So this was my subclaim. Bold any transition words or phrases. So at the time of the Constitution's creation is transitioning and tying it also back to the main question. So I'm going to go in text and make that bold. For example is also a transition phrase. Another way that is also a transition phrase. So these are guiding my reader through it, transitioning them, showing them how the things relate. This is connecting back to the main question at the time of the Constitution's creation. This is connecting it to this part by showing that it's different examples. Next, I'm going to go and look at underline phrases or sentences where you attempt to explain things a reader that might not have the same, to a reader that might not have the same background knowledge. So, so I haven't done that in here. So that would need to be something that I was added. So I might go in and look at, for example, women had no input into the Constitution of the creation. And I'd have my quote there. I might then explain the U.S. Constitution. That should be a period of the source. The U.S. Constitution created all of the, not all of it, created the most important rules that governed the United States. So for someone who wasn't quite understanding what the U.S. Constitution was, that would connect. Now, if I'd already explained that in another part, I would want to find something different. And you don't necessarily need to explain every single time, but there will be times when there are parts that need to be explained. So I'll put that in italics. All right, and then coming back. Oh, sorry, that was supposed to be underlined, not italics. So if you need to take off something, you just hit it again and it will go away. And then underline. And then this was tragic because it meant. So here I am starting to explain, why does it matter? And that's what goes in italics. So I would want to do this for all of mine, not just the first paragraph. And then the ability to select appropriate evidence. At least one piece of evidence for each subclaim should be in blue. My sources should be in red, and I need to make sure I have at least 2 different ones. And I need to make sure that it proves it to be true. So since this was a very brief demonstration on kind of how you would put your things, this would be the quote right here, where I had to have my proof. And your quote would be highlighted in blue. You need to follow it up with the source. Text I'm going to make red. And then I would want to look between sources in that paragraph or sources between paragraphs to make sure that I'm not just using the same source each time, which will be fairly unlikely the way we have this set up, but I'm going to double check that. You also will want to look and self-assess to see how you are doing on all of those things. You did notice that I found that I hadn't had this and I went back and added it. You can add things as you go. If you're like, oh, I don't have that, but I need it, figure out a way to put it in where it works. Once you've done your entire paper that way, you're now ready to go on to part 2, which will be where you're going to get feedback from peers.